All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down the business plan for a really fascinating piece of a global puzzle, Project Octagon. And we're zooming in on its brain, its central intelligence, a single hub up in Canada called Node 2. The source material kicks things off with this incredible analogy, and it's just perfect. It immediately frames Node 2 not as just, another piece of the network, but as the command and control center. It's not just doing the work, it's telling all the other nodes how to work. And that difference, it's absolutely crucial to understanding this whole thing. So that really brings us to the big question for this whole explainer, right? I mean, it's one thing to call something the brain, but what does that actually mean in the real world? What does it do? How did it even get that job? And maybe most importantly, how is it supposed to make any money? And here's the thing that's so interesting. This was never the plan. Seriously, Node 2's role as this central intelligence, this brain, it wasn't designed that way from the get-go. It kind of just evolved out of necessity. Just look at this timeline. You can see this huge strategic pivot happen. It all started out pretty simple, right? Late 2025, Node 2 was just supposed to be a backup node for Uganda. Simple replication. But then everything changed. The project decided to use federated learning, and for that, they needed data from all sorts of extreme climates. So boom, the node gets relocated to Canada, and suddenly it's the brain, tasked with gathering data from scorching deserts to freezing winters. And by early 2026, its role was official. It was codified as the systems architect, the one mind in charge of all the software. Okay, so that's the origin story. We know how it got here. Now let's dig into what this central software authority actually does every day. And this comparison right here, it just lays it all out perfectly. Think about it. A field node, say in Uganda, is all about being super power efficient and producing a physical output. But Node 2 in Canada, it's the complete opposite. It's all about raw, brute force compute power. It isn't running machinery, it's running these massive, complex AI simulations. That's exactly why it's getting packed with high-density GPUs and crazy fast storage. Its job is to think, not just to do. And this right here, this is the secret sauce that makes it all work. Federated learning. Now, in simple terms, what this means is the global AI, the big brain in Canada, can get smarter by learning from data from every single node around the world, from Arizona to Uganda, without any of that sensitive local data ever having to leave its original node. It's genius, really. It's how the entire network learns together while still respecting local privacy and data sovereignty. So its whole mission really boils down to three core jobs. First up, version control. And this is a big one. It is the only node that can push out software updates. This keeps the whole global network secure and perfectly in sync. Second, it's the intelligence hub. It's pulling in all that telemetry from extreme climates to train the global AI models. And third, it's the educational authority. It actually runs an academy to train the next wave of engineers, what they call sovereign systems architects, the people who are going to build and run these networks all on their own. And there's a person behind this, the CTO, Ash Ali. The documents call him the guardian of the network's logic, which is a pretty cool title. His whole job is to make sure that while the hardware out in the field is getting dirty, doing the hard physical work, the code, the brain, stays pristine, secure, and is always getting better. Okay, so the tech is incredible, right? But Project Octagon is also a business. So let's switch gears and look at how this brain is actually designed to be a serious, high-margin profit engine. And it all starts with this number, $200,000. That's the sticker price for a one-time perpetual software license. Now get this, Node 2 isn't selling you a monthly subscription, it's selling you an asset. This license is the key that unlocks the ability for a hardware owner to become their very own local cloud provider. They can compete with giants like Amazon Web Services, but keep all that capital right there in their own community. And if we look ahead at the revenue projections for 2028, you can see those software license royalties are the lion's share, making up a whopping 65.5% of the income. But look, it's not just that. It's supported by these other high-margin streams too. You've got tuition from the academy, future sales from data insights, and even a new healthcare module. But it doesn't start out that way, not at all. The plan actually projects that in 2026, which they call the investment year, Node 2 will run at a loss, almost 10%. And that makes sense, right? The initial costs of training these huge AI models and developing all that core software, well, they're incredibly high. Okay, but just watch what happens a mere 2 years later.
By 2028, in the scale phase, that margin is projected to just skyrocket to over 58%. This, right here, is the magic of selling intellectual property. Once the code is written, the cost to sell another license is practically zero. So profitability just explodes as the physical network gets bigger.
And this bar chart just tells the story perfectly. You go from a loss of $85,000 in 2026 to making nearly $3 million the very next year, and then this massive leap to over $10.5 million by 2028. That, my friends, is the power of this scaling model. But here's the twist. Selling software licenses, as crazy profitable as it is, isn't actually the final goal. The real long-term strategy, the ultimate endgame for Node 2, it's something else entirely. So, in 2027, the plan is to hit what they call the software flywheel. This is that point we were just talking about, where every new physical node deployed anywhere on the planet just adds pure, high-margin revenue to Node 2, with almost no extra cost. The wheel just starts spinning faster and faster.
But then, in 2028, the strategy shifts. It evolves into the data arbitrage era. And this is where the real, unique value of Node 2 finally comes into full view. The software, it turns out, was just the means to an even more valuable end.
So what on earth is data arbitrage? Well, it's about monetizing the one thing that literally no one else in the world will have. A dataset comparing how AI and high-performance tech perform in real-world, off-grid conditions across every single climate zone you can imagine. I mean, think about how valuable that information is. The agricultural insurers trying to model risk, or to companies like NVIDIA and Tesla who are desperate to know how their expensive gear really holds up in the wild. This data becomes the ultimate product. And this brings us right to our final thought. The whole strategy behind Node 2 really forces us to ask a pretty fundamental question about where things are headed. In a world that's becoming more and more decentralized, who really holds the power? Is it the folks who own the physical hardware on the ground? Or is it the one entity that controls the logic, the intelligence, and the data that makes it all run?